Hey y'all, Tracy here with Just Dig It Farms. I am not at the farm today though. I am at my favorite nursery in the world, Petals From The Past. I spent the night with my mom. It was my little nephew's birthday, Ethan, and I spent the night with my mom, and on my way back home, I decided I wanted to stop by Petals. I needed to pick up a bale of that Berger potting soil mix because I am getting ready to start all of my fall veggies in seed trays, and I needed some Pro Mix. So I stopped to get it, and I wanted to take a walk through the gardens here and show you guys some of the plants, perennial shrubs, whatever we run into, that does not mind our August intense heat and humidity in central Alabama here. So we're zone 8, central Alabama. And a lot of times it's hard to find things that still look good this time of year because our heat and our humidity is so high, and a lot of things just struggle and just play out, and it's just too hot for a lot of things. But there's also a lot of plants that do not mind our heat. In fact, that's what they need to really do good. And I just wanted to show y'all some of the things in the gardens here at Petals and in the nursery here that you can plant in your cottage gardens, because that's what we want to do. We want to plant in our cottage gardens. We want to plant all different kinds of things: perennials, herbs, shrubs, annuals, reseeding annuals, trees. We want to put all kinds of things in our cottage gardens that's going to give you year-round interest. And I did a video a few weeks ago, a tour of my cottage garden at home, and I was telling you guys that the best way to achieve this is to go to a nursery or go to a display garden somewhere, like a Botanical Gardens or something, or your local nursery, and see what is blooming at the different times and seasons throughout the year, because you want to add things in your gardens that's going to be blooming throughout those different times of the year, or putting on a show, or that's evergreen, something that's going to be interesting in your garden all year. So that's what I'm doing here today. I want to walk you guys around, and we're going to take a look at a few things that is just performing well in this heat and humidity. Look at this right here. This is a shrimp plant, and isn't that cool? That is a very cool plant, and you can see where it gets its name from. Now these shrimp plants are perennials. I'll have to check the hardiness zones, but they are so pretty. This is a yellow one. They do not mind our heat. These are Black-Eyed Susans, or Rudbekia, and there's all different kinds. There's Herbstone, Goldstrom, Indian Summer. There's all different kinds of Black-Eyed Susans, and they love this heat. This is a beautiful example of a cottage garden. Look at everything in here. These are different salvias. This is Salvia Henry Dulberg. Y'all see that a lot in my garden. But the majority of your salvias love this heat. They'll bloom, the majority of them, not all of them, but a good many of them will bloom from spring until frost. And it's always good to include salvias in your garden. This back here, this is a very cool plant. It's called a Cabbage Leaf or Big Leaf Rudbekia, and it is very cool. It's a heat lover, and it's a perennial. I remember when this was planted here, and it was just like one plant, and it's just multiplied. So pretty. Now this is old-fashioned Heliotrope, and and it is awesome. It's a perennial and it's a ground cover. You can see how it's just spilling out of the garden bed here, but it is so pretty and all the pollinators love it. I mean, it's just always buzzing with bees. It's a really, really good ground cover. This is another really good ground cover. This one's called Plumbago, and this is a perennial Plumbago that is a ground cover. And it's got these beautiful little blue flowers. And it's really cool because blue, true blue color is kind of hard to find in plants. And this one definitely is really pretty. It's a pretty blue. And it just covers the ground in this green foliage, and then it makes this little sea of blue flowers that pop up. Really, really neat. Does well in sun or shade. As we move around the garden here is a very cool plant. This is Tithonia, our Mexican sunflower. Look how pretty that is. This is actually a reseeding annual, but this has been here every year in this same spot for I don't know how many years. Probably at least 4 or 5 years. I remember this being here in this same spot. And this right here is cool. Shelly and I were just talking about this. This is a South African foxglove. She told me the Latin name, but I can't remember what she said. I'll try to put it on the screen here. South African foxglove, and look how cool it is. I love the foliage on it too, and the sweet little blooms. But this is a foxglove. It's she said that it doesn't really like just like warm temperatures or cool temperatures. It likes the hot temperatures. So this is a good one to include in the garden. And then here we've got garden phlox, old-fashioned garden phlox. And I can't remember who this one is, possibly Texas Pink maybe? If I'm wrong, I will put it in the description here. There's all different kinds and colors of garden phlox. And they love the heat. This is the time of year they really start showing out, and they're so pretty and they multiply so good. I've got a few different varieties in my herb rose perennial border around the potager. This is a milkweed, and milkweed is awesome for butterflies. It's a good host and feeding plant for butterflies. This is a Rose Creek Abelia. So as far as adding shrubs, this is a cool one because it is evergreen and it blooms spring and late summer. And if you leave the blooms on there, let them dry, they look like dried flowers during the fall. And then you can prune this around January or February. And the butterflies love this. So it's about a 3 to 4 foot shrub. This one's called Rose Creek Abelia. This is Kerria, which you may also know this is the yellow rose of Texas. But it's real pretty and it loves this heat. This is another salvia, and this is a different kind of salvia. This is called Salvia greggii, and I believe this one might be hot lips, possibly. Very cool. It only gets about 2 or 3 feet tall. Hummingbirds love it, bees love it, pollinators love it. Very, very pretty salvia. And this has been in this same spot for years in the garden here. This one is called Fireworks, and you can see that. Let me find you a good one. You can see why it's called Fireworks when you get up close to it. Loves our heat. Here is Black-Eyed Susan's Rudbekias, and I believe this one is Herbstone. Loves the heat. Here's more of that Plumbago that I showed you earlier. See how it just makes a sea of little blue flowers? Ground cover. Rock rose. And it's really pretty too. More phlox. Garden phlox. These are blackberry lilies. They bloom in the summer and they make these real sweet little blooms. And then the seed pod, which is right here, actually when it dries, it looks like a blackberry. And that's why it's called a blackberry lily. Now this is one of Lacey's favorites and my favorites. This is an old-fashioned creeping petunia. It's a perennial petunia. So pretty, and it just feels out of bed so nicely, and it doesn't mind the heat of the summer. It'll bloom all the way until frost. It's just really pretty. This is Artemisia valerifernis. It doesn't have a bloom, but it has this real pretty feathery foliage that's awesome to add to arrangements. And this is another garden phlox here. I think this is common purple. This is Ruella. This is Ruella, our Mexican petunias. And these things spread like crazy. In fact, you might want to be careful with this one because it really multiplies like crazy. And this is one that you can plant in an area that's really wet or dry. It can adapt. But if you have a spot that's like really, really wet, this one will do well. Now this very cool plant is called Turk's cap. And it is very neat. Look how huge this thing is. It's a perennial. Is massive. Look at these little sweet, cool blooms. And guess who loves this? Hummingbirds love it. They love it, and you can see why they would love it. This is a very neat, heat-tolerant perennial. Now here in the retail part, here's a few things blooming. Look at this David Phlox. There's Dr. Gavon's Phlox. Blackfoot daisies are good too to incorporate in the garden. They're like a little small ground cover type perennial. Blooms from spring until frost. This is definitely a good one. This is blanket flower or Gallarda, and it loves the heat. As far as shade gardens go, oh my gosh, there's so many wonderful things. Hostas, that variegation just really pops in a shady area. So many different kinds of hostas and ferns. This Florida Sunshine Anise is so pretty in a shade garden. It is just gorgeous. Look at this variegated hydrangea. So it has the blue mop head blooms, but the foliage on this is just stunning. So when it's finished blooming, you've still got this pretty variegated foliage in your garden. Look at these cool shade-loving perennials. This is called Farfugium. And this is the Giganta, and this one is spotted leopard, I think. Crested leopard, Farfugium Japonica. Very, very cool perennial. Even though it's not blooming, look at the texture and the shape, the form of this, the leaves on this. Here's one called Shishi. And it's like a curly leaf one. pineapple lilies are cool. And then we've got things like these heucheras, or coral bells is the common name. There's all different colors of these. And even though they've pretty much finished blooming, the foliage color and texture is awesome to have in the garden. And of course we can't forget the zinnias. Zinnias and sunflowers are just excellent heat tolerant annuals that just don't mind the heat at all. In fact, they need the heat. And you can still be succession sowing and planting your zinnias and sunflowers now. So that was just a few perennials and shrubs that don't mind the heat at all and will just keep performing and showing out in the intense hot humidity and heat here in the south. Now there's many other things that don't mind it and will just bloom and be beautiful during this time of year. So definitely, whatever area you're in, wherever you're at, go visit your local nursery, go visit your local botanical gardens, demonstration gardens, go visit those places each month out of the year and just see what's taking place, see what's blooming, see what's showing out, see what you're drawn to, what you love, what you like, and what you want to add to your garden. And then just start adding some of these things to your garden spaces so that you have year-round interest. Oh, and one other one that we cannot forget is the limelight hydrangea. You guys have seen my limelights blooming at home. My limelight and little lime and bobos are really showing out right now. They started blooming in July and they're still doing excellent here in August. They're beautiful, they look really good. They need that heat and they need that sun. So don't forget about limelight hydrangeas to add to your gardens. These containers are just so beautiful right now. I thought this was definitely worth a mention. This is a Blue Point Juniper, which is an evergreen, Christmas tree shape. A lot of people shape them into topiaries too, so you could definitely do that. What I do is what I've been doing is I've been planting one in my container, and then about every 2 to 3 years, I'm pulling them out and I'm planting them over by the barn to make like a wall. So I get about 2, sometimes 3 years in a container with these Blue Point junipers. And then like this year, this next spring, I'll remove this and plant a new one or plant something else and put this over by my barn. But these are just lovely. They have that blue, green, gray foliage and evergreen and that Christmas tree shape. They're just really pretty in containers, and they're also great as a living wall or just a specimen tree like on the corner of a house or a building. So a very good plant, beautiful all year. But what I really wanted to show you was this Cascading Vinca. Now this is just an annual, so it's definitely going to die out as it starts getting colder. But a lot of your annuals are just kind of fizzling out because it's so hot. This Cascading Vinca just keeps on performing. It is lovely. Look how it just spills out over the pot. So pretty, and it just keeps on looking good. Also, one other one that I forgot to mention when I was at the nursery is echinacea, coneflower. And this one is just finishing up its blooms, but most of my echinacea out here in the garden is already finished out, but this one's still going. So July, August, here in central Alabama, echinacea is really looking pretty, coneflower. And don't forget, this is like one of the best medicinal herbs, and you can use the whole entire plant. Here's my old pal Toby. Hey buddy. He was my lunch buddy when I worked here. We had lunch together every day. Toby got half a sandwich and I got the other half. Just about every day. Didn't we, pal? We had lunch together, huh? Yeah, he likes belly rubs. Yeah. Good boy, Tobe. All right, you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me today. God bless you, and I will see y'all in the next video.